photographer, I mean, in every sense, a brilliant photographer, but also the beginnings of that kind of other view of life and a lot of humour as well. And I think that's important to remember. One of the things that has emerged, again, for example, in the screening of the NFT in the autumn, and the retrospective at Chapter Art Centre in November, December, was that range of filmmaking. And to give an example, I think that two of my favourite films, like on the one hand, there are other documentaries, and everybody knows about Elba, the documentary on Elba. But the one that I really love is the film about Delius, which not that many people see, I think, and is an extraordinarily accomplished piece, kind of a dramatisation of a very particular point in Elgar's life, but not just Elgar. And Delius. The other one is the film Gothic, which again, not all that many people have seen, and which is a very relevant, exotic, amazing film about several days of a meeting between Shelley and Byron in Italy over it seems like a long weekend, some weekend. But extraordinarily accomplished pieces of film. And I think that's what we have to learn. And like most artists, we have to look beyond the obvious. One of the other things that I think that comes out from those Ken's work, body of work, is, and what you see in those films, is that attraction to the tension, to that kind of madness which creative art, which artists actually, a kind of state, that altered state, to quote one of his film titles. I think that even in the films that have a more, I suppose, a sort of smoother complexion, if you like, there is always that tension, that underlying investigation of that, the kind of turmoil, the kind of altered state that people are in when they are highly creative. And I think that in terms of the themes today, that's a very important thing. So I don't want to say very much more, except to also thank Ken for being our visiting professor in film for the last 5 years, and the tremendous contribution he's made to the work of our students and staff during that time. What's going to happen now is Ken is going to talk, and he will also introduce the 2 short films. Just to say also that in terms of breadth of work, the films that you're going to see today show that Ken is the leader of the garage film movement, and literally so.
A garagiste.
Garagiste, that's right. One of the latest of the series, made in the very large shed that was in the grounds of his house, which sadly burned down a few years ago. But also that the other one, Boudica, shows how artists never stop learning and trying, and I think it's remarkable for the fact that it employs a great deal of green screen, and in that sense, Ken is way ahead of us, and I think we have a lot to learn from. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the last films I made in the garage, and the grounds, and the conservatory. This one you're going to see clips of is from the conservatory, which is a beautiful daylight studio, was burned down, and I just had green at the back, green screen. So all the seafaring scenes you'll see were actually shot in my conservatory, and all the backgrounds were pirated from feature films. Mustn't mention that to anyone. Can you say, I swear I will never mention that to anyone altogether?
I swear I will never mention that to anyone.
I didn't see that person say it. Will you kindly leave the auditorium? It's okay if you do. Yeah. Now, I went to a nautical college where the The strap was the order of the day. And I've still got the marks to show. Anyone want to see?
Yeah.
Oh, that's my wife. You've seen them, haven't you? Anyway, so, and we were instructed by very strong old salts, old sailors from the days of sail. They still lingered on. And they, apart from knots and splices, they also taught us sea shanties. And I remembered some of the verses of one of the sea shanties, and I thought they should be preserved for posterity. So me, my wife, and my editor, and a neighbour got together and sang. So you'll have to excuse our vocal qualities, but at least they're done with energy and commitment. So I won't show the beginning of the film, it won't be too long, but just a sample of the shanties we used to sing at the Nautical College Pangbourne between meetings. I will show them last week. Okay, so can we please have Lady Projectionist, the good ship Venus?
Oh, Resident Director! The world seems we're all ship-shape and Bristol fashion, so it's time to get underway. So if you're familiar with the words, do feel free to join in me. A bit louder, please. If not, I trust you nevertheless enjoy the air and don't suffer from melancholia.
Was all the good ship Venus, he pageants to the sea, the fair height was the hoary maid, the master sailor's Venus.
Captains told my whenever I'm able, my years have grew to days upon the peaceful table.
These are real words.
The captain was Amos Nipper, he was a dirty ripper, he filled his glass with broken glass, as circumcised the skipper.
As soon as we all set sail, cook's brandy called for bail. The anchor never the open ran, so she had to hump a whale.
Would that be a humpback whale?
No, a sperm whale, you viper.
The captain had a brother, thought he would father, he wasn't fit to show strength from one watch to another. The ship he was pictured to leave, he built a wanking machine on the 99th road. The amazing road, and wind was polished to cream.
The nurse was always in crisis. Her tips were of various sizes. One was so small, couldn't see it all, while the other was gross and unpriceless.
Was on the China station, with slow consternation, they sung the drum that was full song. Oh, you for
The rigger was a wanker, when straining at the anchor. He'd give a loud curse, call for the nurse, who's under drawers and spanker.
the pastor's daughter Annie had one child, was Nanny. When we almost stood over, someone called her over. They say that was Annie. Danny, sorry, it's not me.
conservatory with a bit of stolen footage and a few fancy costumes. The next extract you're going to see is taking green screen several jumps ahead of that little exercise. A little while ago I had a letter saying would I care to make a short movie at Swansea University. They supplied this, that and the other, green screen and all the actors and assistants I needed. We have one professional photographer. So my wife and I have been thinking of a story on great British Queen Boudica in 61 AD, who fought the Romans, gave them a bloody nose. Well, we couldn't all up sticks and go to Anglesey, so we decided to do it all in the studio. So these little extracts you're going to see are all done in the studio, and also the same goes for the number of people involved. You'll see quite a number of Anglicans, more actually than we had, but we just simply multiplied them onto green screen. So that's what I want to show you. This is what you can do with green screen. Someone said to me just before this session, they were going to film a pit bull terrier in Cumbria, and they were going to take them up there. I said, keep the pit bull terrier here and bring Cumbria down to the pit bull. Just send someone up there, take several shots, and you can put him in afterwards. A lot of you may be familiar with what green screen can do. Most Harry Potter films and stuff, like of that ilk, are absolutely crammed with them. But it's a learning process, and if you just watch these extracts, you will see what can be done. And I must emphasize it's work in progress. You'll see Boudica lashed, I believe, but the lashes aren't on now, but they will be. My wife objected. She plays Boudica, by the way, and she wrote the music and sang the songs. When the film is finished, it'll be quite spectacular, but it's being worked on now by the animators for all magical effects. But just to see how far we've gone so far with green screen, and to appreciate the technique, which I think is fabulous, I'd like to show you these extracts. The music was orchestrated by our editor, who is here today, Mike Bradsell. As I say, the words and music by my wife. So have a little look at this preview. So can you run Boudica Mike's back, please? We're based on fact, it's all true. What you see is true. So it will be otherwise. Okay, off we go. Okay, that's a few extras. I'd like to point out my wife, who wrote the songs. Stand up, please. And Mike Bradsell, the editor, who edited the film and also orchestrated the lovely music. Where are you, Mike? So, as I say, not 1 foot of that did anyone go outside. It's all done in the studio with green screen. What can be done, and it's being further jazzed up, more goodies added, including the brutal blood stains on the back. Right, now, I'm going to end this brief. You're not going to say anything about the note there?
Do you want to say something?
No, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is an area which it's a sort of open, it's a bit like another universe.
It is, yeah.
It's a feeling I get, we're sort of on the edge.
Yeah.
Just in the first stage of the rocket.
That's right, yeah.
It's something that we
It's exciting, it's very exciting.
Yeah, we plan to do a lot more of it here. And, I think it's great.
Yeah, okay. Now, 10 years ago, this is the last film, it's very short, 5 minutes. Melvin Bragg, Lord Bragg, the South Bank Show, so he was doing a program, and on various items on television that were in question as to their veracity of censorships. Some people thought they were a bit strong for the viewers, others didn't. I didn't see that particular thing, so I didn't comment, but afterwards he said, Ken, I suppose you're not in favour of censorship, you should see it over and done with, no such thing. And I said, no, on the contrary, I said, I'm all in favour of censorship. I'm sure there are images that if I saw on the screen that I didn't ask or didn't know about, they could freak me out and make me crazier than I am. And so he said, well, that surprises me. He said, I'm not in favour of censorship, but for instance, I bet you couldn't write a script that when I read it, I think, oh, that should be censored. It's Ken Russell, we're going too far. And I thought about it a bit. I said, okay. And a couple of weeks later, I sent him a script. Short it was. And he read it, and he got back to me and he said, Ken, if you made this film, you would be taken out and lynched. Well, it took me 10 years to convince anyone to finance it. The finance was only £10,000 anyway, but it took me 10 years. Finally, a website called Comedy Box heard of my movie and thought they'd like to take a risk on it, and that it might attract attention to the website. So I got the £10,000 and I made the film. Well, it's been shown on a website, Comedy Box website, but this is the first time an audience in a cinema seat. So I don't know if Melvin Bragg was finally offended or not. I sent it to him, I've never heard back from him since. So I don't know. But I'd be interested to know what you think of it when it's finished. So here it comes. It's called A Kitten for Hitler. Okay.
Can comment or ask Ken any questions? If you're so moved.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Goodbye. That's the end.
We've got half an hour, okay.
If somebody has.
No, sure. I mean, I know it sometimes takes a couple of minutes for the ideas to come together.
It might be time to keep together their thoughts and response.
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
Well, Alfred?
Ken,
Yeah,
the challenge
the challenge.
of censorship. I remember you once said to me, I think you said, that part of your mission was to shock. I seem to think that there were people of your generation, in a sense, had that as a theme or something that they felt was important. I mean, do you think that's...
Well, I don't know if I actually said that, but what I meant is, I worked on this arts program monitor, and we just, the basic tenet was to shock people into an awareness on art. Because our audience was basically, not educated in artistic matters. So we, I suppose we sort of, quite often, not always, we shock them into a sense of, I don't know, a magic world, or into a new way of looking at things, a fresh way of observing what was going on and what was taken as art. So I meant it in that sense. Although some of my films, particularly The Devils, did shock people.
And you said earlier that, in a sense, it's all true. That you're not implying, you're not saying that
That's what we did.
I mean, I don't, have you had any, has there been any commentary on the web about
No, I think 25,000 people have seen it so far. I'm still alive, so I guess they don't know where I live.
I don't know.
You see, when I wrote that, don't forget it was 10 years ago, and attitudes towards shoppability, censorship and everything else has softened over those intervening 10 years. So I think if I had made it then, it would have been more shocking. I also think that the fact that I didn't use a little boy sort of softens it. Whereas, I mean, I did approach a few parents and they said no.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah. So I think it would be more shocking, but since it's sort of removed from reality, like a little person plays the part, you know, so it's already in a land of fantasy, which I think is in a way a good thing, because it does remove it from, it's still a fact, and a fact that lots of Jews were cut open for their tattoos and ended up on lampshades in concentration camps and elsewhere. So, I mean, it's a fact that did happen, and to handle it and to, well, you can't justify it, but to sort of explain the hero, you know, that they're heroes, you know, that the dead are heroes, and so just making him a hero even in death, I think, was one way of sort of slightly paying tribute to the unfortunates who underwent this horrendous torture.
Do you think there might be viewers who you could view that film and use it anti-Semitic? Could you imagine that there might be sort of
No, not in a million years.
young fascists who would see that?
I mean, I think it draws very strongly on the kind of satirical, photographic satirical montage tradition that certainly reminds me of it, of that period. And it is that, you know, just the whole thing of that very bizarre gesture of Hitler's sort of semi-cat gesture with the hands and all that. I would have thought that
I think there's sort of this borderline between, I mean, I've got a friend in, actually he's Norwegian, who is just starting a project on gay groups who are fascinated by fascism, by Nazi. You know, they dress up in Nazi uniforms and and he's just starting to try and do a project. Why is it that these people are playing with these very powerful signifiers to do with fascism, which are very sort of stimulating in their transgressing. Yes.
Well, the royal family dress up as
Yes.
fascists, don't they?
I
And there was something on television the other day that one of the, you know, they dress up as Romans around this area in Roman uniform. I used them in the Boudica film. And then there are groups, not gay groups, they're just fanatics for uniforms. You know, there is a certain, well, everyone knows that the Nazi uniform is very glamorous. Of all the uniforms, surely in the last war, you know, there has a bit of style. You know, the Gestapo in particular, they're very dapper, very smart. So, but I think it's so sort of over the top, and, you know, just the way it's done with the little boy running in space. You know, you can't take it seriously.
You could argue actually that it implies a critique of the sort of North American tendency to
only when I explained to Comedy Box, you know, exactly how I was going to do it, that I think if it had been any more sort of serious, they would have I would have got the money.
So you didn't make the film you wanted to make?
No, one never does. I never have the history of, you know, if you get fairly close, you know, but it still tells a tale. Even though maybe this is the right way to tell it. I don't know.
It just seems to me that it sort of positions the audience awkwardly.
It does. Well, that's nothing wrong with that as far as I'm concerned. You know, they often have to ease their time with it. So it is good that it's, you know, makes them feel something. And the silence that followed it, you know, was, well, you didn't need to point it out, it was perfectly evident. So it did make people think. And even that's something. I'm achieving these days. Anyone seen the film, what's that? Comedy? Up the Spartan's Nose? Meet the Spartans? Anyone seen it? It's the most politically incorrect film ever made. I advise you to see it. The first 5 minutes is the king of Sparta beating the shit out of his 5-year-old son. And in Southampton, where I saw it, it got a huge round of applause and cheers from the audience. They're a rough lot down there.
That's very interesting.
Is it likely that we're only get to see satirical films about militant Islam, for instance, in sort of 50 years' time or 60 years'
Who knows, you know? Well,
The interesting question would be where will they emerge? Will it emerge from Western Europe or maybe from the Middle East?
Well, there's one already, releasing. My wife was telling me about what's it called? Looking for Osama bin Laden. Well, they find him, don't they? It looks like him. So, I mean, that's a comedy, I presume. But I know he didn't go to the Middle East to shoot it. He shot it in the Hollywood Hills instead of Afghanistan. Might be tougher down there.
And I was intrigued by your comment that you never makes completely wrong.
No.
Which of your films do you think are most got closest?
I think and the Devils, except it was censored by Warner Brothers and still is. So, you know, they cut it to ribbons.
What was it that you were getting close to? I know it's a different question, in what way was it involved?
Well, I mean, it was true. I think everyone agrees it's a pretty good novel. And the fact that the censor let, we do that new wrestling scene. How many people have seen Women in Love? I bet not many.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's this famous wrestling scene between Alan Bates and Oliver Reed. But they are nude and they wrestle in front of them. That's fine. Big baronial hall. And a friend of mine was seeing it. We saw it was on in a flea pit in Devon one Saturday afternoon in the summer. I thought, hey, I haven't seen that for a while. I want to catch up on it again. So he went in, and there were only 2 people in the cinema, a lovely hot summer's day, and 2 old ladies. And he thought, my God, they're in for a surprise, I think. He said, I'd love to hear what they must comment on it, because they were talking through the entire picture anyway. So he sat behind them, and then on came the new wrestling scene, and with the men throwing each other on this big rug in front of the fire, lovely fire, naked as the day they were born, and they didn't say a word till it ended. And he said, surely I'd say something. And when they're lying side by side after vigorous exercise, panting, one turned to the other after a while, No other questions?
Anybody?
Anything?
Yep. Just a quick question. Do you think you've been working in your films have been quite a good judge of what scenes or what elements might shock people? Or
Yeah, yes, yeah. Well, with the devils, it was pretty evident that the naked nuns would shock Mother Superiors out of their skulls, except when they came to see it done. And a lot of people condemned it without saying it too. There you go. But that's common. That's not new.
Do you think that's something that particularly happens with film and TV programs that people do comments of comment
Yeah.
without people seeing them?
Yes.
Because there aren't many other art forms where that would happen.
No.
Well, actually, that's not quite true. There have been scandal. I mean, I suppose some photographic exhibition. No, I suppose that's not true. But there is that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, you haven't seen. Yes, a lot of groups did criticise the devils when it came out, the Sons of Light and people like that, but they never saw it. So, and members of the clergy also who never saw it. But that's not new. Sorry.
I'd like to know your opinion on how do you think the TV nowadays is getting dumbed down, the same with like films, because like you see reality TVs where they're more interested in watching people getting covered in groups.
Yeah, well, I think that's the general consensus. Certainly the art programs are pretty well perished. I mean, the art program I worked for, Monitor, with BBC, it came on every fortnight. It was the first regular art program, I think, anywhere in the world. But it came on after the, feature film 9:30, so it still had it had a latent sort of audience, too lazy to get up and turn off the channel. And I even used that to my advantage on Monitor films. I realised that Dad didn't want to see a film on Debussy just having, enjoyed a James Bond movie. Except that if I could capture him and others like him before he had a chance to get up and turn it off, that was in the days before then I stood a chance of hooking him for the rest of the program. So my film on Debussy, I knew that if I just said, now comes a film on Debussy, he would get up and switch on. But I didn't open it with the title, I opened it with a girl in a t-shirt, nailed to a cross on a beach in Eastbourne, as other girls in t-shirts filled her with arrows and blood. And you think, well, what's that got to do with the bit? But stop there getting under his chair. And the thing was that it was revealed later why I did that. There's Debussy wrote a cantata called The Martyrdom of Saint Sebastian, and it was played by a woman. And Saint Sebastian was killed by his own archers. And I was doing an update of a film on Debussy, being actually shot by a French camera crew at Beachy Head, where he wrote quite a lot of Marner and stayed in the current big hotel that's there. So there was a reason for it, which is explained later as the film went on. But it certainly, was a gripping start.
Great, I think that's it. Thanks.
Okay. Well, here.
Sorry, one more.
Your work uses strong, a lot of humour in it. I was just wondering, does that hinder the way that the industry takes, how seriously the industry takes it?
Well, the industry doesn't take me seriously at all. I made most of my films, my big feature films, in the days when Hollywood ruled the roost in England. There were every company, Paramount, United Artists, Warner Brothers, Columbia, they all had huge offices in London, full of 20 or 30 people. Now there's lucky if there's a stringer who's working for all the companies, making a phone call to America once a week. I mean, ever since the British have been in charge of the money, you know, people like me and other directors like me of that period aren't flavour of the month anymore. You've got to be Scottish, 17 years old and female. Thinking of having a sex change. Have a face it. Now it's, but anyway, since the advent of the instant video camera, I mean, all you have to do, you've got to have a good idea and know how to direct, but all you've got to do, you know, is to press the red button. You know, and make your own films. And so I'm not reliant in the films I make now on anyone except myself. And they cost, I mean, Boudica, well, I got help from the Swansea University, but I suppose I spent about £100 on spears. And Boudica's costumes, another couple of hundred, but you know, you can make films for peanuts if you go the right way about it. And that's just as much fun. And you have total control. It's your film. You can do what you like. You can show it where you like, if you can. And there's no reason to ever stop doing it.
Yes.
What camera did you use in Boudica? Was it high definition?
Yeah. Yes. It was supplied by the university.
I should say Swansea, or Swansea Institute of Higher Education, not Swansea.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
That's Swansea.
Right.
Thanks. I think with green screen, what I've discovered is that the higher the quality of the camera,
Yes, the better.
the key. It can be difficult to learn.
Yeah, I mean, on the good ship Venus, there are times, you know, that's, doesn't look as authentic as I like it, but in a way that's no bad thing, I think. But I think it's, you know, it's a thing of the future, but it's, you know, it can be abused, that's the thing, you know. But it does enable us all to have a wider panorama for our...
Yeah, I do think it's a fascinating alternative way.
Yeah.
It's very exciting and stuff, yeah.
Mm.
Okay, we now have, if there are no more questions, Mark, there is...
Yes, do it now, yeah.
Thanks again for...
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that thank all the speakers and thank